Hey y'all, welcome back. Crazy to see you. It's really crazy to see you because it's a Tuesday and I'm here with two people that we really don't have guest episodes. But yeah, I think it'd be fun for us to go over our brackets and kind of talk to each other about who decided and let this March Madness season begin on a good note. So first up, I have my good friend Blair. We met in PR class, can't remember which one, pre-pandemic. And Blair, tell everyone hey and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi you guys. Since that pre-PR class, I have changed majors, but I still like to stay involved in sports. So Ashley and I had two classes together that semester, and we would walk to each class together, and we would just talk about sports. We were in groups together, and yeah, that's how we really bonded and got through those two classes.
And the second person we have up here is Daniel. You go by Daniel, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we have Daniel up here, and I've actually never met Daniel in person. We've only met each other through Instagram, but that's life nowadays. And everybody say hey to Daniel and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Daniel. I'm a sophomore computer science student at UNC Chapel Hill, and I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of the podcast. I don't really follow sports all that much, but when I do, I definitely try to listen to your podcast.
I feel like we're covering a good landscape of basketball, especially college basketball this season. We have, me, I literally talk about it every week. We have Blair, who's a March Madness fan, fills out the bracket every year. And we have Daniel, who's, casual fan, but everyone is biased to UNC. I feel like part of like when we're like signing that will go here is like you got to at least pay attention to basketball at some point.
Sure.
I gave everyone like a little thing. We're gonna, not go over the whole bracket because who has the time and who cares, because we all know we're only gonna end up with like 3 or 4 right by the end of it anyway. And yeah, so I think we should start off with our locks, like teams we know that are definite picks. We got the number one seeds are Illinois, Gonzaga, Baylor, and I forgot that Michigan, Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan are our top 4 seeds this year. And how did y'all feel about that? If you did have a certain feeling towards this?
Well, personally, I think all the teams that were picked for number one were well deserved. Definitely. I know Gonzaga has a lot of talent, and surrounding them typically is that they come from a conference that isn't usually as tough as the other picks. But I feel like it was well deserved on their part. I feel like Michigan has a pretty tough journey to the Final Four, but I think they can do it.
Yeah, same here. I think Gonzaga's been pretty dominant. Obviously, they're the only team that's still undefeated, and yeah, I think strength of schedule is going to be important to think about. But ultimately, I'll be honest, I have them taking the whole thing. So
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Because personally, I feel like Gonzaga, they're a good basketball team, of course, but I feel like, every year they kind of do get that hiccup in the tournament because they play, St. Mary's high school JV team like every year. Like,
Yeah,
like
like when
when
it comes down to it.
yeah, like when they go to like play, obviously they're gonna beat like the people who are playing in the first four, but when you come to like see a team like a Michigan or something, you're gonna be like, oh wait, they're kind of as good as I am. Maybe we should like play defense. So does anybody have any Cinderellas that they're like, I think, we can really pop this one off here? And to me, I categorize a Cinderella as like anybody that's going, you know, anybody that's beaten a big team or anybody that could go to a Final Four, Sweet 16, Elite Eight. That's not, a 1, 2, or a 3 seed.
Well, I'm a little biased towards UNC. I have them going all the way, whether it's realistic or not, I feel like they do have the potential, and how far they went in the ACC tournament, I feel like that's going to really drive them. Which they do have that factor where they've been playing back-to-back games, where some teams such as like Virginia or like Virginia Tech have had like weeks on, weeks off, and like they can come in here ready. But I think we're fully prepared. I think Georgetown's another good one to look at, where they just came and took their tournament by storm. And Patrick Ewing, I think that he can take them at least to the Elite Eight.
I don't really have any Cinderellas. I think just from what I've seen, everything's been pretty cut and dry. But I do like Oklahoma State. I think they're going to be fun to watch. I have them losing to Houston, but I think they're gonna kind of shock some people.
Yeah, I agree. I think Oklahoma State, they kind of, they kind of put themselves on the map this year with obviously Cade Cunningham. And did any of y'all see like Oklahoma? They had their like senior like little banner there, and they had Cade Cunningham on the senior thing. And I've been like, if I was here, I'd be so mad. Like he got here yesterday, and y'all are like we all know he's leaving, but like, geez.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think Oklahoma State's gonna go far. I do have them also losing to. Oh no, I have them losing to Oregon State. I had Oregon State out here beating Tennessee, and I think they're gonna be good. But I definitely double down on my Cinderella being Georgetown from what they pulled off this weekend. Because they didn't even like none of their games were close except the one with Villanova, and the rest of them, like their conference championship, they won by like 50 points.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they'll go far. And do you feel like any, black horses, like not necessarily going to make it to the Final Four, but that are going to put some big upsets on some notable name teams, like our team that no one knows, like this year's Loyola Chicago? Yeah, for me, I have Maryland coming out and beating UConn and then taking Alabama pretty close. That's who I have, with a big upset. I have Ohio beating Virginia. I don't know if that's really reasonable or not. And then I have Creighton getting Gonzaga in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I always try and pick. It's usually that 11 and 6 seed matchup where I'll like try and throw a good 11 in there just to give me a chance. I have Oregon State beating Tennessee, just where, I mean, you can't always go with like the lower seed and like I feel like they have a better shot. I feel like Daniel, where he said it was cut and dry, I feel like
Yeah.
for the most part, it was there wasn't anything like I would like to pick a UNCG or an App State because I mean I feel like they have talent and they never really get recognition from where they're in like smaller conferences.
I kind of feel bad for like the teams who win their conference championships and then they have to play in like the first 4 rounds because like you actually won, but you have teams who like basically kind of had to quit, like Virginia, who just get to like fly by here, Syracuse, that like gets to sit on 11 all comfy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And every year we kind of have our like fun stories of like people who, we don't really know about and talk about. And did y'all feel like any people y'all know are going to come out and think, we're going to have crazy stories? Like from the beginning of the year, we had Mark Anthony. He plays for Utah State. And like he talked about yesterday how his like number 44 like stood for the Wendy's like 4 for 4. And I was like, why would you admit to that?
God. Well, I always do like stories like that with Sister Jean, and like I'm always looking forward to seeing just those underdog teams. I feel like Georgia Tech, like that's how it was with the ACC championship, and I feel like they had really good attitudes, like at the interview at the end, and I have them going, I think 2 rounds maybe, but I think they're a good one.
I think it'll be interesting to see, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but how UNC kind of tries to tie it together. I know they've had a bit of a rough season, but I think it'll be a good story to see how they kind of maybe try to put the pieces together this time around. So
yeah, like they came from last year where there were talks like they wouldn't have even been in the tournament. So I feel like it might be another redemption story. Like, I mean, we obviously had our own redemption story where we made it and lost and then won the next year, but they really harped on Virginia's redemption story where they lost in the first round and then won it the next year. So I'm hoping maybe we can turn around and create that again.
Oh yeah, they gave them basically their own like 30 for 30 on the ACC network about that.
I would love to see that.
But my whole thing about that was that they lost in the first round. Like they could have turned around and lost in the second round too. Like, is it really a redemption story about like at least UNC got to the championship and lost,
Yeah, that all they were saying the first year, they just lost first round. Any team could have done that. Like, so I don't really think that first year, it wasn't hard to lose in the first round where it was hard for us to get there and the next year make it again and win. But
yeah, I feel like, we have to be biased about UNC, but I feel like obviously they've made like a big jump this year from where they started off, like those first 2 games, like the Texas game, the Iowa game, and like now we're at March and they're pretty good. I was truly surprised when they beat Notre Dame by like 500 points.
yeah.
I did not see that coming because like I feel like you can watch a UNC game and they'll be up by 20 with like 4 points left, but you're still sitting on the edge of your seat because you're like
Exactly.
the walls are about to fall down like anytime soon. It's about to go down from here. Okay, so I know Blair said she has UNC going all the way, which we can only hope. But Daniel, do you have UNC getting far?
No, I have them losing to Baylor in the round of 32. I don't see them getting past Baylor.
Yeah, I do too. I can't see it. Again, would love to see it, but I feel like Bear's gonna have like an off day. Or, they talked about how like COVID was gonna work, that they have those like 4 replacement teams if someone can't make it by Tuesday, and then, there are going to be some uncontested if people come down. I feel like that's probably UNC's only chance of getting by Baylor if Baylor doesn't lose in the first round. A big topic about this year, was how Kansas, UNC, Duke, and Kentucky, had a really hard start to the season, and Kansas lost to Oklahoma State. No, they lost to Texas. Well, they didn't technically lose; they had to quit. But do you feel like that's going to play into Kansas's season? And obviously, Duke didn't make it, Kentucky didn't make it.
I feel like maybe seeing that where the other teams, like they had these opportunities to come in, like I feel like every team this year should be grateful that they've had this opportunity, like even especially those like on the bubble or may not have had like a number 1 season, because this season was hard for everybody, like especially UNC, like they had their challenges, like we had to sit out on multiple games and it wasn't even like on our like own players, but I feel like a lot of teams had to face that. So I personally feel this tournament's going to be a little up in the air, like where some teams haven't gotten the experience that other teams have gotten. And like some have had a break during the season where other teams have been going nonstop since like tip off in November.
This I kind of feel like in a weird way, this tournament's going to go like, it's kind of going to be like kind of boring because like everyone was like sitting around for like how many ever days it's been since 2019 tournament. And like, they're gonna be like, okay, like it's been crazy enough. Like all the 1 seeds are gonna make it to the Final Four, and they're gonna be like no Cinderellas. But does anybody else kind of feel like that way too? It's gonna kind of be like,
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I was thinking when I was filling out the bracket, because usually I'll have a mixture of different seeds, like making it to the Elite Eight, but this time it was pretty much just the top ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of has to do with like, the pandemic in a way and how the season turned out. Cause like, most people are going to come off their like tournaments playing day to day. And then they're like turning back around to get to Indianapolis to quarantine and all that stuff. And I feel like everything on the outside of March Madness is going to be like too much. Blair already said she has UNC winning because she's biased. Is there, other than bias, do you think, UNC has like a legit chance of actually taking it home this year?
Well, I think personally, when they face Baylor, Baylor's a really good team, lots of talent, a lot of returning players. Like that's going to be tough. I think they can beat Wisconsin. Personally, I feel like they have the drive, like since they didn't make it last year, like they're really going to want to like stay in this tournament and not get out first round. If in the chance they do get past Baylor, I have them playing Villanova just because I like to see the rival just from years past. And Villanova's a really good team, but I just feel like in that situation where it's going to be like them against Villanova, that's a team like they've played like in the past. I feel like, I don't know, I have them on a pretty all right path, but it is a lot of chance. So.
Those are valid claims, aside from all of our biases, there's some valid claims
Yeah.
that I think could stick if like people actually, took our advice for some odd reason.
See, I'm a realist, and I'm just thinking about the season, the type of season that UNC's had, the ups and the downs. I just don't see them being able to hold, fingers crossed, it'd be nice, but Baylor's just such a strong team, just a solid team. And I feel like UNC will have a difficult time kind of rising to that this season.
True. Baylor's been a lot more consistent. They lost like their first game like the end of last week and took another L this week. So that's something to look at too. And like we have a team of like sophomores and freshmen and Garrison Brooks. Like that's basically our team right there. Because as much as Linky Black is such a great person, he can be a little on and off switch sometimes. Like I feel like sometimes like you go and he like goes shoot and then you're like, oh my god, it's not going in. And then it goes and you're like, oh wow, that's great. Yeah, so my pick to win it all is Baylor. I mean, they've only lost 2 games. Most of the games before they headed into the end of the season, they were dominating other teams. And, they have an amazing offense. Jarrett Butler, I feel like he could definitely win the like Wooden Award or whatever like the best basketball player award is. And they have a great coach. They have offense and defense and everything I feel like you really need to win the tournament. Their depth is insane, especially that's something you could really need right now is, down to more than your starting 5. Daniel, so make your case for Gonzaga for anybody else that's out here trying to fill out their bracket.
I don't know if a case really needs to be made. I just feel like I think Michigan, I have Gonzaga and Michigan in the Final Four. I think that'll be a good matchup, but ultimately, I mean, you can't argue with results. 26-0. Can't really argue with that.
You can't argue with it. I mean, that's a good claim. No, I have Michigan getting out in the Elite 8 against Alabama. I feel like they're a good team, but their like star player like hurt his ankle or something the other day, and they basically crumbled in their semifinal without him. So I don't know. Blair, how do you feel about Michigan, Gonzaga going at it?
Well, I have Gonzaga getting out to Iowa just because I've kept up. I was like one of the only teams outside the ACC I've like really kept up with this whole season. I feel like they've had a really good season. Like they have good players, they have skill, and I don't know. I like them. So I put them against Alabama in the Final Four.
Yeah, I feel like Alabama is kind of like one of those black horses who could like, really mess up a lot of people's brackets. Ours definitely because we don't have them going that far. But I mean, they've gotten in that new coach. He's been there for 2 years, and they just won the SEC, and they were winning games by like a lot. That's in my final game. They won by like 20 something points.
Mm-hmm.
How far do y'all have Alabama going?
I have them in the Final Four.
I have them losing to Texas in the Sweet 16.
That's pretty. I do have Alabama in my Final Four going against Creighton and beating Creighton over that. And then I have Creighton and Baylor in my championship game, which I now looking back at them like Creighton barely could hold a candle wick to Georgetown. So how in the world would they make it to the Final Four? But you got to go a little crazy and Mark. And just give everybody a little recap of your Final Fours too.
My Final Four, I have, like I said, I didn't have a mixture of like seeds as I usually do. I have Iowa and Alabama, and then I have Carolina and Illinois.
I have Gonzaga, Michigan, and Baylor and Houston. I think that's pretty set in stone.
Houston, that's interesting. I didn't have Houston going pretty far, but I mean, they played well against Cincinnati, so we'll see. Yeah, and I have Baylor, Illinois, Creighton, and Alabama in my Final Four. Bama and Baylor taking it all. So, to step back a little bit from this year's championship, y'all got any, like, crazy Final Four moments y'all remember from, I say back in the day, but we're not really that old to have too many back in the day memories.
The one I always go back to as a UNC fan was Luke May in that Final Four against Kentucky. And that's something that was one of the first years I started really watching basketball and getting into it because it's like, I mean, your team's going to the finals. Like, you need to start paying attention. But Luke, like, that was just crazy to me. Like, I will never forget watching that shot go off.
I think same here. I mean, not just bandwagon, but I don't know. I think just watching UNC play growing up as a kid, knowing that I could probably never play for them, obviously, because I don't play basketball like that, but just, the excitement around the Triangle area of watching, a local team being consistently one of the best teams in the nation. I think it's very fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously didn't grow up nearly near the Triangle, but that's a big moment. That loss against Villanova, that's a heartbreaker. I feel like anytime if you watch it, you're like, ugh, oh, that one hurts a little different. It just seems a little harder. But I feel like the Loyola Chicago kind of like run they went on, even like the Sister Jean story and like all that. I feel like that was one of those like swept the nation. Everyone, like, even if you didn't follow basketball, like you knew about Sister
Yeah.
Jean and like those kids out there at Loyola. Do y'all like the storytelling part of March Madness, like the whole like, you know, show production kind of style of it, or do you just like that there's like basketball on TV all day?
I think the storytelling is really what differentiates it from any other form of basketball because, I mean, I'll turn on any basketball game whenever just for background noise. I just like it that much. But March Madness is just different because of the stories tied with the teams. Because I grew up, I mean, I like Virginia. I live on the Virginia line. Like, it's close, I'm fine. But when Sister Jean became a factor, I was the biggest Loyola fan ever. Like, it just, those different stories, or like with Purdue, where they had that super fan, it was that kid that had cancer and he was a
Yeah.
part of that story. I think it just really changes outcomes and like it really drives teams. So I feel like that, I don't know, that just what makes March magical, I guess.
Yeah, I like the stories too. I think that, sports is, in my mind, sports is not just about, on the floor, on the court or on the field. It's about the players on the rosters. And I remember I was watching some uh segment on a smaller team, and they brought one of the players' fathers on, and of course with COVID, weren't able to exactly go home and see meet with the family and be together, and just they broke down into tears, and I had to shed a tear. But yeah, like I said, I think the stories are what makes sports, especially in this time, when we're all separate. I think it adds that human element, and yeah, I think it just makes it a little bit more human.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when they show the videos of like the kids getting the scholarships, like I love those videos. Like I don't even care. Like they could be like the worst. Like this year, I think one team had one. They told like the guy like he worked at Walmart, and they like showed up at his job at Walmart, and he was like, "What are y'all doing here? Like I'm trying to like stock the shelves." But yeah, those are the best stories. And like I remember when Louisville had the like Kevin or whatever his name was, and he was like running down the court and like his leg like bone popped out, and like that was like I remember that was like one of those moments you were like, oh, this
Hmm.
is not this is not good. Like I remember their teammates' faces. I was like, yeah, y'all don't need to like rewind that back. Like that was good enough for me the first time. But the stories make it. I feel like that's what that way like makes it like the TV show kind of style. Like you have something to root for other than your team who you like, because everyone likes watching basketball if you like watching basketball. But if you have like someone to root for, it kind of makes it a little bit better in a way. Now, I remember like when we were in school and they like used to like roll in the little TV cart and like the teacher were like, okay, we're gonna watch basketball, but like don't tell your parents. We were like watching basketball in school. Do y'all have like memories from that too?
At my elementary school, it was third through fifth grade, and that's when you're learning like multiplication tables and stuff like that. And each classroom, third through fifth, picked a team, and we had our own multiplication March Madness. And we would face off against each other and have a big school bracket. And it was like the team who won, like all the kids dressed in that gear and decorated their classroom like that. Like it was just a huge deal. Like even though it wasn't about basketball, it was just the culture of like teams and the brackets, and like you're learning this in third grade and you think it's so cool. Like that's why I still like Virginia and NC State like to this day, because like those were my teams. And like
I don't have anything like multiplication madness, but I do definitely remember even up through middle school, almost into high school, having teachers that were just so invested in it for whatever reason. I don't know, like 40-year-old grown men just yelling at the TVs during class. But I think that's just a testament to how ingrained basketball and sports are in North Carolina. I think it's a dope thing to see.
Even if you don't like basketball or sports, like you still tune into March Madness because you know that's what everyone's gonna be talking about, especially like on the internet. So you don't want to feel like left out. You don't want like the FOMO, anything like that. So yeah, I don't have like any specific memories though, but I do remember um in middle school, like my school, we used to have like the Google chat room thing, and like it would be part of like your Gmail account for school, and like people would like text the score like in the Gmail account. So we'd be like on the Chromebooks, and the teacher would come by, and we would like we would like try to like put down the TV, put down like the computer screens. I remember that so much, and everyone would be like, "I can't believe y'all are doing that," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's why our class is like the worst class, because like they hate us because we never knew what we're supposed to be doing." Thank you guys for coming on this little special midweek episode. Let everybody know where they can find you. If you have something to be found, if y'all have anything like coming up y'all want to tell people about.
Well, no, pretty much just from this week on, it's just paying attention to March Madness. I guess my classes got easier, maybe because March Madness started up, but I think that's a perfect opportunity to just focus on my bracket, make as many as I can, maybe win that $5,000 prize that ESPN has. So best of luck.
I think my professors decided it was a wonderful time to turn up the heat a little bit, so probably have some March Madness on in the background, but definitely pulling some all-nighters this week. So
y'all can follow me on Instagram at Blair Tuggle. If you keep up with my Instagram stories, I'll post a lot about stuff from ESPN, mostly Carolina basketball.
You can find me on Instagram at WDTAYYY, so 3 Ys. I might post some stuff about like analytics. I'm big into stats, so might be looking at some stuff in the coming weeks. We'll see.
Thank y'all so much for coming on, and that'll be it for us this week. See y'all on Thursday.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Be safe, have fun, and don't be afraid to join the convo.